Hi guys, so today we're going to go ahead and we're going to learn how I expect you to read and take notes in your notebook. So we already did like an example of how I expect you to take notes. Now I'm going to kind of guide you along and kind of start you guys off. So we need to make sure we add this to our table of contents. So this is number 3 in what we're doing. It's chapter 1.1, what is science? And that's going to end up on page 4. Now, your pages can be different. Don't worry about if they're different. That's okay. You might take bigger notes than someone else. If our page numbers are off, that's okay. But if I go to grade your notebook and I look on page 15 and your page 15 tells me it was the 1.1 notes, I should be able to find that on page 15. Just make sure it coincides. So I'm going to turn to page 4. And we probably don't have this numbered yet, so let's make sure that we number it. And so page 4 is going to start our chapter 1.1, what is science? Remember, we split this into thirds, okay, or 1/3 to 2/3. Our vocab goes on this side, our notes go on this side. So the first thing that we're going to start off doing is just reading through the section. So one day long ago, someone looked around and wondered, where do plants and animals come from? How did I come to be? Since then, humans have tried to answer those questions in different ways. Some ways of explaining the world have stayed the same over time. Science, however, is always changing. Now, as I read that, again, I said this in my video before, science is always changing, that kind of resonates with me. Everything else is more or less, it's the added stuff. So you could put science is always changing, but remember I told you sometimes these think about it, they're going to just preface, so they're going to give you an example of what's to come. So we have what science is and what science is not. That's our first heading. So I'm going to go ahead, before I even start reading, write that down. Okay, so I'm going to read before I write anything down. So the book contains lots of facts and ideas about living things. Many of those facts are important and you will be tested on them. But you shouldn't think of that biology or any science is just a collection of never-changing facts. For one thing, you can be sure that some facts presented in this book will change soon, if they haven't changed already. What's more, science is not a collection of unchanging beliefs about the world. Science ideas are open to testing, discussions, and revision. So some ideas presented in the book will also change. These statements may puzzle you. If facts and ideas in science change, why should you bother learning them? And if science is neither a list of facts nor a collection of unchanging beliefs, what is it? So right here we have basically the title, what science is and what science is not. So in this text, we should be able to find that in there. So what science is. So if we reread that, now that we think of it, what can we find and what can we pull? So now that I read it once, I'm going to read it again and try to find the things about what science is and what science is not so that I can write it down. So this book contains lots of facts and ideas about living things. That doesn't really tell me what science is and is not. Many of those facts are important and you will be tested on them. Same again, nothing. But you shouldn't think that biology or science is just a collection of never-changing facts. Does that help answer that question, what science is and what science is not? I think it does. It tells us that it's not a collection of never-changing facts. So that's something that we should write down. So remember, we indent, not a collection of unchanging facts. Okay, so that's one thing. So for one thing, you can be sure that facts presented in this book will change soon. Well, it kind of just helped that other sentence. We don't need to write that down if they haven't changed already. Once more, science is not a collection of unchanging beliefs about the world. It's kind of what we wrote there, but you know what? We could even put unchanging facts / beliefs. And we'll just add that there. So scientific ideas are open to testing, discussion, and revision. So that kind of answers the question about what science is, so we can write that down. So scientific ideas, I'm just going to write sci for science because it's our notes. It's supposed to be shorthand. Ideas are open to testing. Discussion, and revision. Okay. So, ideas presented in this book will also change. These statements may puzzle you. If facts and ideas in science change, why should it bother learning them? And if science is neither a list of facts nor a collection of unchanging beliefs, what is it? Okay, so I feel like we answered that question, but instead of writing a whole paragraph right here, we wrote 2 sentences. Okay, so that's how we need to go ahead and make sure we summarize things. All right, so then next, we have science as a way of knowing, and this is the last section I'm going to do with you. So I'm going to go ahead and we kind of come across another bold heading, so I'm going to put that down as a heading. Science as a way of knowing. Okay. So science is a way of knowing. So how can we better describe that heading there? So science is an organized way of gathering and analyzing evidence about the natural world. It is a way of observing, a way of thinking, and a way of knowing about the world. In other words, science is a process, not a thing. The word science also refers to the body of knowledge that scientific studies have gathered over years. Several features making science different from other human endeavors. First, science deals with the natural world. Scientific endeavors never concern in any way supernatural phenomena of any kind. Second, scientists collect and organize information in an orderly way, looking for patterns and collections among events. Third, scientists propose explanations that are based on evidence, not belief. Then they test those explanations with more evidence. So again, you notice I read through first, okay? Now it's time to go back, reread, and try to think about how science is a way of knowing. Okay, you also come across a vocab term and it's highlighted. Do you notice how I didn't write that down instantly first because I wanted to read through it? Well, we know it's a vocab word, so I'm going to come back to that later. But the first thing I want to do is come up with this: science is a way of knowing. So how is it a way of knowing? We have to answer that question as we read, or kind of think about that as we read. So science is an organized way of gathering and analyzing evidence about the natural world. That's the definition. We're going to write that down later, so we're not going to rewrite that in our note part. It is a way of observing, a way of thinking, and a way of knowing about the world. So, a way of knowing. So, well, that kind of just tells us that right here. Science is a way of knowing, but how is it a way of knowing is what we have to think about. So, in other words, science is a process, not a thing. That kind of stands out. Let's go ahead and put that. Science is a process, not a thing. Okay, so science is a process, not a thing. The word science also refers to the body of knowledge that scientific studies have gathered over years. So several features make science different from other human endeavors. So first, it kind of went through when we were reading before 3 different things that it makes it different than other kind of studies. So why don't we write down how science differs, and they kind of talked about it here. So I'm going to actually indent and put a 1 so that I number what they kind of tell me here. So first, science deals with the natural world, only the natural world. So deals with natural world. Number 2, what is it telling? Scientific endeavors never concern in any way supernatural phenomena of any kind. So that just means it helps describe the sentence that we just wrote. So if you don't understand natural world, then that's something that would help you, okay, understand. So like an example, for me, I'm not going to write that down because I pretty much understand what natural world means. Second, scientists collect and organize information in an orderly way. So scientists collect info in an orderly way. So looking for patterns and connections among events. Third, scientists propose explanations that are based on evidence, not belief. So, propose explanations based on evidence, not belief. Okay, so we kind of covered that chapter. The one thing we didn't cover in that chapter, or not chapter, that section, is the vocab terms. So remember, when you come across vocab, read through the paragraph first before you start writing the vocab down over here. Get your notes down first, and then write down your vocab. Okay, so hopefully it kind of reading it a couple times helps you reinforce or learn what that vocab means, and then you're finally writing it to understand what that means. So let's go ahead and remember, we put the term science, we underline it, and then we define it. So we'll define it, and it tells you the definition in the text, and then remember, we draw a picture. So now what I'm going to have you do is finish up, okay, the last of this page. I'm not going to make you read any more than that. But in your notes, I would like to see a section that says the goals of science, change, and uncertainty. Okay, so that's what we need to make sure that we cover in our notes that I didn't cover here. And then you can stop. So stop at page 5. There's no more vocab except that one word. All right, so that's what I expect for you guys to have done tomorrow.